Hi, welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophie, your pilot into the universe of Chinese. We are going to continue our journey in learning just a little bit more of this ancient language a day. I hope you can see the screen right now. Okay, yesterday we talked about 正负相关, which is a translation of concept mostly used in statistics about how things are correlated. It can be positively or negatively. And so positive and negative is even more popular use when we refer to, for example, electricity, positive, negative, or attitude, positive, negative, or energy, positive, negative. So all this kind of concepts imported from the West were framed by these two characters. Today we continue with 机关算尽. So this is not imported. This was a description of a particular woman or character in literature. And because she became kind of a stock figure in Chinese conscious, it's almost like in the West, we have this word Karen, right? Karen, kind of like a stereotype of a certain personality on women. And 机关算尽 is kind of similar, a type of female figure. You will see. Okay. 机关算尽. Okay, so we have the 关, the same, comes from door locking. These are pretty elaborate door locking devices. And we can only imagine back then, probably there are some historical evidence of how the doors were locked in the past. It's not like our contemporary, locksmith was a relatively recent invention, right? So locksmiths allow us to lock the door more easily, and you can do it one hand. But in the past, it's a two-hand event. So it's like a symmetrical image over here. Okay, the door and the locks. Here we have something mechanics that looks similar to over here. And I think that should be something different, right? Because if something is the same, how can the same thing be used behind the door as a door lock over here? Here I translate as chances and criticals, but both of them originate in really mechanical world, a physical world description. So the left side here, this 机 come from left and right, and the left side here is the wood symbol that symbolizes something is a tool or a device made of wood. And in the past, in a tool or device evolution, right? Tools become more and more complicated, and wood probably was the earliest, one of the earliest materials that's readily available and easily shapeable, that you can just carve, shape, cut, doing something to it to come up with a mechanical structure to achieve certain goals, right? And over here on the right side, so this four circles, I speculate these are different things, and these are just language abstractions to mean they're, mechanics. So, okay, imagine in the West, nowadays when we try to represent mechanics, right? Oftentimes the image of a watch inside of how a clock works, behind the watch, so with a gears, right, kind of a moving together like that, and pretty complicated, big gear, small gear, and then kind of a rotating together. I think that's a similar way of thinking in back then, the language creators, when they try to come up with a visual to represent the mechanics of things. These are their, customary or fallback imagery to mean things are linked, things are interlinked, and there are multiple parts, and they have to work together So that's my interpretation. Instead of it comes from a concrete kind of a abstraction, the door, this comes from how the door used to look in the past. So this doesn't necessarily mean it's a device with 4 circles, something like it. It's an abstraction, just like this. It's a kind of abstraction that kind of resemble the physical world to a degree, but it's not exact. So these are some mechanical parts over there. Okay, and the bottom, we have, again, gu, which means weaponry back then. But this weaponry came from a farming tool. So farming tool were, because it was a farmer society, farming tools were readily available. So when it's wartime, farmers converted to soldiers. And the conversion, not only by what they're supposed to do, but also the devices they're using. I mean, back then, probably what do you call it? The armor industry was not that like industrialized, easily readily available, right? So the easily readily available convertible tool, farming tool that can be converted directly into wartime weaponry could be some wooden structure, but with metal parts on it that you can really hurt people. So, I mean, on the farms, there are, at least in contemporary, we have pesticides or something that the chemicals you can use to kill people. And I'm sure on the farms, there are tools they can use to kill people, can be converted to weaponry. So these are similar ideas of some kind of mechanical parts that came from the root of farming converted to weaponry type of tool. And then there is a person here. That means a person using a tool to achieve certain purpose. Excuse me. But according to the scholar, the whole picture on the right side is kind of archery, came from the archery. So imagine a moment of when the arrows are placed onto the bow and you already pull the bow to the max and aiming at your target, ready to shoot. And that ready to shoot moment, that whole mechanism of getting things ready to its status of being immediately functional and can be a killing tool, right? I mean, shoot out the arrow toward your target. So that becomes this physical world activity abstracted into this chances and odds. So I could have translated to odds, but I just realized, well, the rest of them must start with C. I like alliteration, so I use chances. But chances here coming from this arrow shooting, ready to shoot image, because timing is the key. The shooting arrow here not necessarily come from like, okay, you're practicing on a fixed target, but it's more like in a wartime or something. In real life, things are moving and you have to calculate your timing to make sure your arrow landed on the moving target. So that's the kind of chances we can relate to, because it relates to timing. And timing in, I guess, archery and in a lot of things, like when you start, when you pull the trigger in a gun, comparison, so pull the trigger, right? In an arrow shooting comparison, it will be release the arrow when you kind of do this action. That is becoming furthermore extended and abstracted into the chances. Chances is abstract, right? But for an easier entry, like an entering point to understand the chances, is about timing, about what are the chances that you can hit a target, or when it starts, when you release the arrow, like that's the timing you have to a very, very narrow window. So chances are also kind of, there are a whole bunch of possibilities, right? And chances are there's only a small area. I mean, imagine the, what do you call it, a Venn chart, big, and only a small chances that you can hit it within a narrow time window or within a narrow space or within a certain conditions that all got to be met. The timing for something to happen correctly as you expected is really a narrow window. And so that timing concept extended into this abstract of chances. So chances and criticals, by criticals here is a little bit extension as well, because it came from this door closing activity. And when the door is closed, it's like, oh, you cannot enter anymore. And that becomes critical because door is thinking it as a gatekeeping, right? It's a binary result. You either open the door, somebody can go in, or close the door. So this door closing, this yes and no answer becomes critical. Like if you have to have a certain condition and the door is closed, you don't have access to something, that's like you're done. That's critical, right? So chances critical, 机关, often used together means some, just like that. It's something essential, something like 机 may be more related to timing, and the 关 more related to condition, your dependencies, if they're all fulfilled. So these two often used together. And ironically, when I did a Google Translate of this phrase, they say, wait, 机关算尽, they, I mean, the auto translate by the computer, they convert the 机关 to authorities. Because, okay, 机关 in contemporary Chinese use are actually more used to refer to the authorities, means the governments. And it's ironic because the government, the ruling party over there, or the bureaucracy, the ruling, the whole infrastructure of ruling governments from the local to the central levels, they self-referral themselves as 机关. And I guess in a way it is true, because in China, if you want to succeed at anything, you have to deal with these bureaucracies. You have to get your papers or certificates and license, whatever case, they have the keys to your future. So they are to individuals, really, they are the 机关. So that's the irony part. And computer, of course, they 机关算尽, if without a context, without knowing the historical reference of a particular stock figure, a female figure in Chinese culture, they will automatically translate 机关 as the authorities. Okay, so that's about it. And 算尽, 算 is calculating. It came from this bamboo sign on the top. And this in the middle, it doesn't mean eyeball. It's actually a shared image, but it refers to cookware. So cookware in the past is a metal, big piece of metal, right? Imagine a big pot that you're doing slow stewing something. That's the kind of a pot image. The two horizontal lines simply means the patterns, the decorative part of it, because in the past, I don't know, okay, ancient people, the cookware or the daily household items sometimes are decorated, just like the door. They have the upper door panel decorated. And the cookware, like on the side, there's no functional, no utility of decorating a cookware, right? But they like to do that. Back then, we have evidence in a museum, and probably the museum kept pieces are not real cookware used in cooking anymore. Eventually, these cookwares, because they are metal, they can be formed, right? So the messages are going to be carved and molded into it, right? So there was a whole cookware or drinkware, highly decorated metal pieces preserved, becoming museum pieces. And my understanding would be, it really depends on how much money you have, right? To invest in elaborate cookware, just like silverware, still in a West was could be a heirloom piece, be super expensive, right? And in ancient times, cookware could be highly decorated, super expensive, but to a daily use or to an average household back then, cookware probably just slightly. It's probably was not as plain looking as today's cookware, which is total utilitarian and optimized cost-wise. But in the past, probably cookware was kind of a major investment and could be an heirloom across generations. So people really took the time to make their household cookware in a certain look. Kind of ingrained a certain message to it. While you're cooking, you're almost like a ceremonially cooking with a certain respect. That's why here at the bottom, there are two hands holding. So the hands could be, basic cooking, but the hands could also, in this elaborate message ingrained cookware, could be kind of a respect. This shows the respect. If you have two hands kind of holding them like that, it means respect. And cookware also, the two hands there could also mean, this come from one person, but it could also mean two hands from two persons. So people gather around cooking. It's a ceremonial, it's a big deal. And also it's a gathering, it's a communal practice. So in any case, the bottom portion, the cookware plus the two hands means something is complete, is ready. And to me, that's interesting because cooking, even if it's a daily activity, even if it was not highly, ranked at or valued at some complicated work, right? But to make things right, to cook things right, a lot of things you need to consider to make food ready to the right degree, right? So here, this cooking with two hands eventually mean something is completed. So you can regard it as either before cooking, you have to get all your ingredients ready, then you can start cooking. So that's a kind of cooking two hands, work on it. You have to get things ready. And the other part is, food is ready. Communal experience of gathering together to cook, and then food is ready. The two hands are kind of holding this hot pot toward the family. So that's kind of a visual representation of food is ready to serve. So either understanding these symbols means something is ready, something need to be completed to be ready, right? So this completion or readiness plus the bamboo become calculated. How to understand that? Okay, bamboo, my understanding is because in Chinese ancient time computing, we started from rope knotting, right? Because we see that in number 10 symbol that comes from roping as a record keeping method. Now the bamboo, my thought connection would be the abacus. Abacus was used before computer time throughout Chinese ancient society until maybe 100 years ago, definitely before. Actually, in my mom's generation, my mom is super good at doing this. Just using, I think it's a upper, like using three fingers, kind of super fast compute the basic arithmetic. So plus minus, I'm not sure about the multiplication, but at least a plus and minus easily can be used. So those abacus were made from bamboo, and it has a very pleasant sound, almost like raindrops from an expert hand of doing this. It can be super fast, like and then that abacus became this, I mean, that was used, a common tool, as easily, it's cheap enough, right? Easily available and widely used in like commerce, right? People at the end of the day, they have to tally up how much they make, some things like that. They have to use this abacus. And so this bamboo material imply the abacus, and imply the abacus means imply is calculation, is computing. And the readiness simply means you need to abacus computing to make sure that everything is ready, or you hit a certain threshold of readiness, right? So that means, okay, kind of imagine cooking, you have all the ingredients ready. And then when you do this abacus, which is kind of a tallying this summary, that you have all your numbers reached, everything is every conditions were met, and then that's the moment when you know, oh, things are okay. So this abacus plus considering everything ingredients ready simply extend it further to mean the calculus, I mean, not calculus, it's not a contemporary calculus, that's later math, but calculating activity. If we transfer it to our contemporary knowledge of calculating, and actually in computer, this is one component of computer. We have 计算机. So 算 was the middle character in Chinese translation of computer. So calculating definitely has that function served in the past, and computer kind of serving similar functions for our contemporary use, right? So that's calculating. 进, 进. Okay, here we have this complete, right? Means food ready or ingredients ready. This 进 means after dinner. After dinner, dish cleaning is complete, is finished, is well cleaned. So we have this 3-finger hand symbol. This time it's kind of looking like this, right? Horizontally, this is 3-finger hand symbol, holding some brush looking thing, right? It's just like brush. It looks like a brush, right? And it's funny how the ancient tool this time is kind of looking like the contemporary tool. And then this bottom thing with a little bit upward curve, and with a bottom stand and with a kind of spacer in between, that's the image of kind of a dishware, something, some container that you can hold soup or solid food in the middle. So this is a kind of foodware. So dinner dishes, kind of utensils back then. So this is hand cleaning this. So this is pre-dinner, this is after dinner activity, and this dishwashing means complete. That means that's something you have to do after eating, right? So this extended into completing. So chances criticals calculate complete. The whole thing means, okay, you understanding the most important, the most critical point of your, like some big thing you want to achieve, right? And along the way, there are certain conditions you have to meet, and the criticals you have to know. And also there are certain timings, this narrow windows you have to hit for things to happen, right? So it's a whole orchestra of elements you have to know and calculate till it's complete. Everything is well considered. And that's the 机关算尽. And it refer to specifically this character in Chinese literature, the Red Chamber Dream, 红楼梦, one of the 4 biggest Chinese classical literature, really, really thick. And this is in the 80s when China first started, opening up and finally allowed some creative freedom. And so a team of, I think it cost them several years and a huge crew of actors. Like the characters in the novel was like hundreds of them, right? From more important, the main character to supporting character, a whole hierarchy. It basically recreate the ancient world, the kind of a near ancient world 200, 300 years ago of a influential family. And this one character is served as she's not a leading character. Of course, it's a love story, so it's not a boy and a girl. It's not a girl, but she serves at the background of how almost like the chief, the CFO or COO, if we regard the huge family, influential family with a lot of fortune, with a lot of people, a lot of resources, right? A lot of triggers to pull. If we regard the family as an organization, she was the CFO or COO. So I'm not sure about CEO because she probably was not the decision maker. Decision maker came with age, and also you're, in a patriotic society, it's got to be a guy. But she is the one who was running the whole family. She was the one that do this abacus calculating to make sure your income and outcome kind of balance sheet watcher. So she took that role. And as a result, she has to be able to balance all the, the needs and wants of the family, all the fights or things like that. She has to serve as the role of the brain or the function. The CEO or not CEO, but CFO, let's say, okay, because a lot of them about money, about distribution. So she basically she operates the family business. And as a result, the novel depicts her as super calculating. Imagine in that role, you have to be super calculating to make sure your ends are meet. You have so many mouths, like so many headcounts in your household that you have to make sure everybody are covered. Eventually, this household went bankrupt. They got it because of the lifestyle are not just sustainable, and also a change of political environment back then. But this 机关算尽 specifically attributed to her, Wang Xifeng. And in a future history, when some female figure was tangentially having this trait of calculating, in their mind, they're calculating before they make a move. If they have such a trait, they probably would be attributed to 机关算尽. But nowadays, when I'm doing this, recording this, I review what 机关算尽 is about and the context and how she ran the business. Probably that's a necessity. That's how you survive that job. You have to be 机关算尽. But I guess it got a negative connotation, 机关算尽, if it's a very calculating female. In English, it would be more like over calculating, like overly computing, trying to come up with all the chances before you take action. That's like too much calculation. That could be the other, like go to the other extreme. All right, it's too long. Okay, Crashing to the Currency of Thinking by One Word a Day with Sophie. See you another day.